Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we return to infinite chess, where all of the rules of chess are the same, but the board is infinite. Let's dive in. All right, I found out about a couple exciting things. Firstly, we can draw arrows, and I don't know if that was always a thing and I was just doing it wrong the last time, but you can draw arrows. And secondly, there are a couple of levels that I was looking at that I'm very excited to try. So these are the levels that we've done so far. You can see that I haven't even dabbled in the hard levels yet, but we do intend to try that today. We'll start off with a warm-up with the queen, the rook, and the knight, which should be a relatively easy level. But this will get us acquainted with the mechanics for anybody that hasn't seen infinite chess before. One of the biggest things about infinite chess is you want to work towards restricting your opponent's king. So we'll bring the queen down to force the king to come back up, and look at those beautiful arrows. I mean, just absolutely the light of my life. Did I just highlight the whole? I thought I just highlighted the whole thing by accident. Okay, we'll bring the knight a little bit closer. Right now we have the king cut off on two different files, so the king has no choice but to walk up and down. Can't walk any further down, obviously, because of the queen, but of course I'm happy to have him walk closer to our knight, who will make his way over in just a second. Now, what I haven't done and what I preached last time, so I should probably do, is figure out exactly what configuration we're looking for, because obviously now the king is very restricted. The knight anchors the rook cuts off these two sides of the square, or rather the rectangle, and the queen anchors herself because the king can't get too close and cuts off these two parts of the rectangle. But as far as actually checkmating, not really sure what we're looking for here. Let's restrict the king a little bit more. Now he can only move to these two squares. I see the idea. Okay, so the final configuration that I think we want is the knight on this square covering, I don't know why I want to call that E4. It feels like we have the king in the middle of the board, but to be fair, the middle is subjective when the board is this big. We'll go back towards the actual position. Whoa, that's kind of close. I think the final configuration we want is the knight here covering the square and the queen connected to the rook, giving the actual mate. But we need a tempo for that, so I'm going to move the queen back down. We'll give this check. The king does move back up, and with that, we deliver mate. All right, so hopefully you get the idea of how this works. With that, we solved the first puzzle that I wanted to try. Let's go to move on to puzzle number 2. All right, we head back to the practice page, and the other one that I really wanted to try is the two nooks, which is a knight and a rook combined. We only get 2 of them to checkmate the king. Again, this is supposed to be easy. First thing I'm going to do, you'll see the way the nook moves is very, very interesting. Just like a rook and just like a knight. But the first thing we're going to do is use it as a rook, both of them, to try to cut the king off from moving across the ranks. Nice, we've now restricted him to a single file. He can only move up and down. We'll move the nook up here, which covers the square, and we'll move the other nook here to cover this square. Now, the king should be restricted to only 2 squares. Because these 2 pieces move like a knight and a rook, you'll see it covers off these 2 squares and the entire file, and this piece covers off this square and the entire file. So the king can only now move to these 3 squares. Now, as far as actually delivering mate, again, I haven't actually thought about the final configuration. I guess at some point we could just have like the 2 nooks defending each other as knights, and then the rooks will do the heavy work of cutting off the files, and then this nook will also cover this last square, and that should just be mate. So I guess we can just work the king down with checks and then mate. All right, nice. 2 down. Let's go to move back to problem number 3. Okay, the next one that I wanted to try is the king, the queen, and the knight, because it's very curious to me that this is listed under medium. It seems to me like this might be one of the easier ones to try. We'll start by restricting the king. That seems to always be the game plan. You'll see we've sort of created a corner that the king can't move out of. I mean, of course, the king can walk this way, but that gives us time to bring the king and the knight a little bit closer. And if he gets a little bit too far, then I just move the queen down and create a new corner. So let's start moving the pieces over. Nice, so far so good. This is kind of the boring part because we're just kind of bringing the pieces closer to the enemy king. And now, he's actually stayed in this corner. Now we have to start thinking about how we're actually going to deliver this mate. Let's bring the queen closer as well. And to be honest, I'm not sure what the final configuration looks like here. My first thought is something like where the knight is here, the kings are in front of each other, and then the queen delivers the check. And the only reason that works is because the king catches this last square that the other king can move to. So that is one way to make mate. The other option, I guess, is like the kings would stand in front of each other, the knight would support the queen from the back, and that would also be mate because the king can't move anywhere. The only problem is I'm not totally sure how we set up either of those. Those both seem a little little bit difficult to set up, but again, this is a medium problem. Let's start by moving the knight a little bit closer to the king. Again, I don't want him to escape across this rank, so the queen kind of needs to stay where she is. If I give this check, it's, you know, open sesame for the king to just run away. Let's move the king closer as well, forces the king back to this square, right? And again, these forcing checks are very, very tempting, but I don't think they actually work. I'm going to try for that first idea, where in the perfect world, we end up with the kings in front of each other, the knight is over one square and defends the queen to deliver that mate. Now, I have no idea how I actually set that up, but I'm going to at least attempt it. So I'm going to need the knight here, I guess. Let's move the knight down and over. Oh, wait a minute. And then I just give check and then this is mate. Oh, beautiful. I'm going to be honest, I feel like I stumbled into that a little bit by accident, but we did get that final checkmate. All right, now let's move on to the hard puzzle. All right, now this is the one that I was actually very excited about trying, because if you scroll down here, you'll notice that in one of the puzzles, we actually get 2 kings and a rook. And this is supposed to be a hard puzzle to give mate with. We've never done a hard puzzle before. And right off the bat, I'm going to make an educated yes and think that the reason this is hard is because corralling the king into a corner is not going to be easy when you have 2 other pieces that move at the exact same pace. So we're gonna have to buy ourselves tempo here somehow. Let's move the rook over, and my first thought is cut off the king. Now the problem is, and it's actually quite a big issue, is these kings move at the same pace. So if we just move down, the other king will just continue to make its way down as well. So I don't actually know how this is supposed to work. If we move the rook down and try to sort of catch the king can just sort of move over and bother our rook away. Wait a minute. Do we just move the rook down further? I think that's worth a shot. Let's go like this. Well, no, that doesn't make any sense either, because the king can just move diagonally, and the king moves at the same speed diagonally as it does straight up and down. So how on earth do we catch this king? I have no idea. I feel like making moves is a little bit of a waste of my time, but I feel like it's necessary. Yeah, and the king's just gonna keep walking down. And we're never gonna catch him. Wait, how does this work? Okay, hold on, let's reset the position. This doesn't feel any more promising, to be honest. I feel like we need to spawn in a position where the king, or rather our king, sit on the outside of the enemy king, and that way we can just play the rook over and at least somehow be ahead of the king and sort of stop him from getting too far away. Is that cheating? Is it cheating if I just reset the position until we get that sort of setup? It feels like it is, but at the same time, I genuinely don't see how else we're supposed to do this. Okay, let me give this an honest attempt first. How would we corral the king with only a single rook and 2 other pieces that move at the same speed? Okay, I've sat here thinking about it for a little bit, and I sincerely, I have no idea. I can't think of it. If it exists, I'm not capable of thinking of it. If you guys do know how to solve this without just resetting the position until the enemy king rather, sits between our kings, please do let me know. I'm genuinely very curious, because it feels impossible to me. My reasoning is these 2 pieces can only ever move at the same piece as the enemy king, and if anything, we need to buy ourselves tempo, because we have 2 of them that we want to make their way over to the enemy king. And the rook by itself has no way of corralling the king. So I'm just going to reset this until, there we go, it only took 1 reset. The kings are now sitting opposite to the enemy king, or rather the enemy king sits between our kings, and now this should be at least feasible. We can move the rook down. Let's do it right here. Move the rook down, and we want to make our way down with the enemy, or rather with our king. So we'll move the rook down again, and now we can actually catch the king on the way down with our king. Oh, did we not do it in time because I wasted a tempo with the rook? Oh, goodness. Oh, that's quite bad, actually. Maybe we can just give this check. Then catch here. This might actually work. Let's move the rook over. I know we've left the other king off in the distance, but I think it's necessary at the moment. Okay, we'll make our way down, move the rook down again, and now we're definitely ahead of the other king. Nice, we can cut him off, and then he just goes back. Okay, cool. I think this is where we want to be. Let's walk our king over. Okay, the king has now crossed over, so I think I need to start merging my kings potentially. I need to be careful, because he's going to try to make his way this way and escape from us. Nice, so far so good. Excellent, I think this is where we want to be. Now, I'm going to start making my way over with the other king, stop him from escaping. Very nice. And I think this should be possible. Oh wait, do I just need to maintain opposition here? That's kind of... Oh, I can move the rook over. Nice, and now there's no way to come through. And now I've bought myself another tempo to bring the king closer. King moves over, I move my rook over again. cut him off on this file. There's no way for him to cut through, so he needs to move back into opposition with my king. Opposition means the kings stand in front of each other. And that buys me another tempo to bring the king closer. Then we just repeat. I just need to make sure I'm landing on the right file every single time, or I am going to have to reset this entire run. Okay, let's go here. And every time the king shuffles back over, I buy myself another tempo. I will just sort of speed through this. Okay, we're closing in now on the king. I'm going to move my rook a little bit closer just for your viewing experience, so you guys can see it a little more clearly. And the strategy here this whole time has just been the king wants to escape this way, we don't let him, we cut him off. So the king makes his way now back down to the center, and this should actually be a pretty straightforward mate. I move the king up, I waste a tempo basically to make him go back into the center, and then I do deliver that checkmate. All right, with that, I have solved all the puzzles I intended to solve today. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It is in the works at the moment for me to collaborate with another YouTuber and actually play a game of infinite chess. But in the meantime, I think that this is a pretty fun way to train, and hopefully it will prepare me to win all of those games. Let me know down below if there are any other levels that you guys want me to try, and I will see you guys in the next one.